Little Women has been something that's been part of who I am for as long as I can remember. There was never a time when I didn't know who Jo March was, and she was always my girl. She was my literary character. She was the person I wanted to be, and I loved her. And so when I heard that they were going to make the movie, I went into Sony and I said, you have to hire me because I'm the only one who can do this justice, and I have a very specific idea of what it's about, and it's about women as artists, and it's about women and money. It's part of what the book is. It's just an aspect of it we haven't delved into. So this may be a more personal film for me than Lady Bird. This is everything for me.
Why this Little Women is so incredibly speaks to this moment in time is because of Greta. She wrote it, she adapted it. She's so spontaneous that she couldn't help but make this about young women now.
She wanted to tell the story from them as adults. So the movie starts with them as grown-ups, having the lives that they've chosen, and we go back and forth in time.
The way the book was written, it was written in 2 books. In the first book, which is the childhood part, which is what I think people think of when they think of Little Women, and then the second book is the adult part, 8 years later. And they're really twins, and they're companions. And I found, as I started looking at the chapters, that you could graft them almost one on top of the other, and they're like the adult answer to what had happened in childhood. And I thought there was just something incredibly poignant about it.
And we certainly have all the cozy snow globe images, but it has a very different modern understanding.
For me, I always heard it as a modern story. For me, it never felt dusty. It always felt like I could hear it clear as a bell. But when I was writing this screenplay, completely new parts of it jumped out at me.
I think the most exciting thing about witnessing Greta the writer is that the moments that she wanted to be the most radical, she would say, I can't believe this. I'm actually going back to the text to use her exact words because it's so modern.
There's a line where Marmee says to Jo, I'm angry almost every day of my life. That's from the book. She says that. And then she explains how she's fought against that tendency in herself, but I thought, that's such a modern thing for a mother to say to a daughter. And Amy says in the book, she says, I want to be great or nothing. That's not a line I made up. And so I tried to make the script have as much word for word from the book as possible because I love the language of the book.
But the challenge for Greta was the way that people talk in period movies. They sort of sit like this, and no one touches each other, and people say things very slowly, as opposed to the way maybe life actually was. And so we tried to give the movie an incredibly naturalistic sensibility.
Greta's just from the get-go wanted to just messy it up and make it comfortable for us and make sure that, we weren't always in our costumes, that we're half-dressed or that we're, getting out of bed. She really wanted to make this as authentic and as real as possible. And that's so fun to have a director that just said, okay, how can we mess it up?
The pace that we speak at, the fact that we overlap, that's not something that you really see in period pieces.
Don't say such despicable
I like
things.
strong words that mean something.
Well, I have to go back to school and I don't have any lines.
Lines?
It's scripted in a way that a play would be, where she uses dashes. And it just makes it quite musical.
A lot of the times on a take, I would see her not even watch us acting it, but she would just be listening to how it sounded and whether it sounded like a piece of music and it sounded right to her.
But it is in a rhythm. It's not in a random rhythm. It was almost like conducting an orchestra. There were actually times when I'd say, and begin. And then I'd hear all the lines come at me because it was like I wanted to hear certain words poke out and I wanted it to sound like how sisters talk. Yes, okay, and
I wish we could
Is it fairies? It was Mother.
No, it's Old Aunt Lunch.
All wrong. Mr. Lawrence sent it.
lovely.
I think that having a director who is also the writer and knows how they want their words spoken, it's gorgeous to have it articulated so clearly that you know what they want.
There's a confidence in her directing where an uncertain director will just kind of cover everything with cameras, redo it, because they don't really know what they really want. She knows what she wants, and once she has it, we can carry on.
You just see her commitment, her focus, and I actually really like that. Greta's ambition was less about how do we put a twist on it, and more like, let's just try to do it as good as possible.
In the meantime, we're gonna...
We'll reset. That was perfect, Timothee.
People think of it as a movie about sisters and relationships, and it is, but it's also a movie about somebody becoming fiercely independent in a time where that was unheard of, and what you have to do in order to be successful.
Louisa May Alcott did not want to have Joe get married at the end of the book. But she caved. She did the thing that was gonna sell books, and she was right. It sold a lot of books. The first printing was sold out in 2 weeks. But she did a couple of things. She kept the copyright, and she got a greater percentage of the back end than I think any other deal at the time.
6.6%.
Done.
And you don't need to decide about the copyright right now.
No, I've decided. I want to own my own book.
I wanted to include that in the movie because I kept talking about it to people. It was like, you have no idea. She was so interesting. She kept the copyright. She was this amazing woman. She was so funny. And then suddenly I was like, why don't I put all this in the movie? This is worth having as part of the story, because it is part of the story. And when I started looking at her life and her journey as a writer and her journey as a woman, I realized that Jo was the hero of my girlhood and Louisa May Alcott is the hero of my womanhood.
Greta has said that this film is about women, money, and art, and how women negotiate that, especially in a world where they are coming up short in the transaction. And she was very interested in subverting that.
My whole idea of how I wanted to construct the end of this film, and really the whole thing, is I wanted to deliver on what the pleasures of Little Women are, and also give Louisa May Alcott the ending she wants. So I wanted to do the romance. I wanted her to get Bear. I didn't want to rob us of that. And then I also wanted to ask, why do we want that? Why do we need her to have that? So the first scene of the movie is her with her publisher, and he says,
and if the main character is a girl, make sure she's married by the end. Or dead, either way.
And that's sort of the way I approached it, married or dead. That's what you've got to do with female characters, because if they're not married and they're not dead, God knows what they're gonna do. It's gonna be a mess. So what I was trying to set out to do was saying, well, I told you at the top, married or dead. That's the rules. And then you got Jo, and you're like, well, what's it gonna be? And so there's something afoot in terms of what we're saying the story is about. There's fiction, and then there's the writer of the fiction. It's like you start layering all of these different realities on top of each other. I remember thinking, like, I really hope I can land this plane, because it really set up all these different strands that I'm trying to pull together.
Jo!
But I felt she would have liked it, so I did it.
It's romance.
It's mercenary.
Just end it that way, will you?
Fine.
The fact that she's able to sort of add her own spin on it whilst also actually staying really, really true to the literary version of the story is incredible.
If you are a young woman, Greta Gerwig has become this kind of symbol. She's kind of paved the way for women to tell stories, and there's something very meaningful about that.
Thank you!
And I think that there's something of the complete revolutionary rebel spirit that's contained in Jo, and this possibility for life beyond what your gender dictates at the moment that is completely exciting still. It's like she allowed us to be free. So Little Women feels like more autobiographical to me than anything I've made. This has got a lot of me in it.